Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining me here on another episode of Life with Reed. Actually you're watching MOI, and I have a small PSA at the beginning of this video. If you don't like to listen to the PSA, I'll put a shortcut to the correct time where the meat of this video about flashlights begins. But I actually want to go back to a PSA. Now, in one of my prior videos, someone left a comment mentioning, hey, don't talk in sound bites. Well, let me explain it. Now, don't get me wrong, the comment was actually a good one, because it tells me I need to explain sort of why I talk in these weird Shatner-esque pauses all the time. The answer to that is, I have lung damage. I only have about 60% of lung capacity of a normal person. Yeah, imagine that. So I don't really have a huge pile of air to talk with. And the other problem is see, to get past the background noise like that, they say, make sure to talk really, really loud. Point being, your voice is up high enough that when you're editing and stuff like that, and you filter out the background noise, you can get rid of it really well. And then your voice is still there, and people can hear you, and it comes out pretty clean. I'm starting to get the hang of that. The only problem is I have to breathe a lot. I mean, a ton. Especially at those louder volumes, because I'm using the air like crazy. Kind of annoying. Yeah, I know. Everyone's got their problems. That's mine. Now, I went out and I bought a new recording device. I figured, hey, why not? Let's give this a shot. This new recording device, it has a much lower, what do they call it? Signal to noise ratio. Meaning that it can record really clean audio. At least it's supposed to. I'm going to give it a shot. Meaning I don't have to talk at this super loud voice. And people can still hear me, and the mics can pick it up well, and it can get it recorded out. Now, if it records really cleanly, when doing post-production, I can work on the audio a bit and not worry about, clipping myself off and losing a lot of what I'm trying to say. Or amplifying it and making this huge, giantly loud static in the background. Yeah. Audio is something I had no idea it was so complicated as it was. It's been a big learning experience. With luck, I can use a more regular voice. The only problem is I'm not going to be able to get past all the Shatner-esque pauses. Yeah, I know. Now hopefully you guys will be understand a bit and put up with these weird pauses and won't get super annoyed with me. I'll try my best to avoid them as much as I can. I just don't have as much air to work with. Sorry about that. Sort of like Paul Harrell, except his comes from a different point of view. Now I do have my own learning disability that I can tell you guys all about some other time. And it's kind of interesting and odd and explains some weirdness about me. That's another story for another time. Now you may be saying, hey Reed, how did you get such lung damage? Well, turns out it comes from my background. Well, of course, I mean, how else am I going to have it from my background? But it actually deals with my childhood. See, my family grew up very poor. And when I say very poor, I mean super extremely poor. Like the church would come by and bring us groceries because we didn't have any food. Yeah, that kind of poor. Where we actually ended up squatting in another house that we weren't actually supposed to live in for the winter because we knew they were away in the winter and was only a summer home kind of poor. Yeah. Now, I had asthma from a very young age. And the only problem is medications are horrifically expensive. I ended up having to get my medication from the samples from generous doctors who were nice enough to say, here, give this to your son. But, as you can easily see, it wasn't enough. Now, asthma, unfortunately, if you don't treat it and care for it very carefully, if it's on the more severe side, which mine is, means that you get scar tissue. And I have a fair amount of it. I only have, like I said, about 60% lung capacity of a normal person. The test they're going to use on you to determine the lung capacity you have is called a spirometry test. And as I like to call it, breathe until you pass out test. Because, yeah, you really run the risk of passing out. It's a pretty difficult test. Now they have this little thing, it actually kind of looks like a round spiral in a weird way. So it goes together, spirometry test, spiral, And what it is they have you take a real deep breath, and then you blow through it, and blow, and blow, and blow, and you get super red in the face, your vision starts, and then they tell you, stop, breathe in as fast as you can, and you breathe in as quickly as you can. And when you're done doing this a couple times, you are incredibly lightheaded, and you feel like you're going to puke everywhere. And many, many people pass out in this test. But the point is they can measure the full lung capacity, and then they can also measure how quickly you can suck air back in. I obviously am behind the curve. Such is life. However, these days, since I have a nice job, I can do stuff, and I actually take my medical care very seriously. That's why I often rant about medical care in general, that I spend a lot of time making certain my asthma is very well controlled. Last thing I need is for me to get any more scar tissue and becomes even worse, and then I have even less lung capacity. Be an utter disaster, really. Due to the decreased lung capacity I have, obviously physical fitness is a major challenge for me. I'm fairly physically strong, I just have very weak endurance. Problem is when you're up at the higher ends of the performance curve, well, you need a lot of oxygen. I do not get enough oxygen. Let me tell you, the number of times I passed out in gym class when I was a child was really high. They'd always say, oh, you need to get better asthma medication for your son. Ain't any money for that. It's what happens to you. So, these days, I've been working on trying to get better physically fit. My sedentary lifestyle of working on computers was really bad for me. So I'm working on this. The only thing is, with such a decreased lung capacity, it is a challenge. I can walk really well, but don't ask me to go run. I can also do short sprints. Now, I'm not going to resort to doping like Lance Armstrong or something. Plus, ain't really sustainable after Grid Down and the Great Epoch. We got to do other things. So I'm seeing how can I increase my endurance and make my body more efficient for handling oxygen, or learning how to pace myself better so that I can still, run and move when I need to, but not risk, passing out due to a severe lack of oxygen. Good challenge. And when I figure it out and understand it better, I'll be sure to let all you guys know what I found for a solution, because maybe it'll work well for some of you guys. I am still researching and trying to figure out what the heck to do. First step I've been doing, treadmill and walking a lot because it's cold. Once it warms up a bit, I will be outside walking and I'll take you along on some walks. I don't do walking in the cold very well because it's very hard on asthma. A lot of people that have asthma report the same issue. I've been thinking actually about making like a mask where I breathe through it, and what it does is it sucks air and the air wraps around my torso to preheat it, and so I can breathe warmed air. I want to try to make one and see if I can get that working. When I get it working, or when I'm building it, I'll make some videos for it. Maybe it helps some of you out there who also have asthma as well, that have the same problem I do. Anyways, now that you've heard all this, and we've got a new recorder and stuff, and Tiger, I really appreciate the comment. I didn't take it the wrong way at all. It's really nice to know that maybe one of the limitations I have is actually driving people away and driving them half crazy. So it's good you made the comment. Just says I have to do something different to compensate for my own limitations. Now, the other reason why I do pauses a bit is due to a learning disability slightly, not just the lack of oxygen. I'll tell you all about that in another video, because you're probably thinking, geez, Reed, we've been talking this long, you haven't even gotten to the meat of the video. I know. So, with all that said, let's actually get to the meat of the video. Every prepping channel has got to talk about flashlights at some point. But I'm not going to talk about 50,000 lumens that can light up the Earth from space or something like that, I'm actually going to talk about a really practical aspect of flashlights that I think a lot of people often forget. Now here's a flashlight I use for everyday carry. I like it. It fits well in my pocket, just clips right in, and I have it around me all the time. Can't tell you the number of times the power's gone out when I've been in the darn bathroom, and since the bathroom's in an interior hall with no windows, it goes pitch black in there. Having a flashlight really helps, so when you need to wipe your rear end and get out of there, you can. Real handy. Now, the interesting thing about flashlights, though, is I take an odd approach. I do not like a lot of the new flashlights at all. I like the higher lumen count, that is a plus. Once you start climbing over, 400, 500, it's not really going to help that much, and you're just destroying your night sight. It's not really this giant advantage. But the other thing that I really dislike about a lot of the modern flashlights is those lithium batteries, they have a limitation. Most of them are actually designed inside the flashlight, and so they have to be charged with the flashlight. Not many people are buying lithium standalone chargers because they're just relying on the flashlight itself to charge it. That's a problem. If you're having to use a flashlight constantly on patrol or looking for stuff and you're out there dealing with SHTF, or something's gotten knocked over, you've chasing stuff around, grabbing parts, bringing it back, you're going to run the battery dry. Do you really want to stop work and say, I got to wait for this charge. Hold on, everyone. Not a good idea. This flashlight is a lithium flashlight, and I consider it acceptable. The reason why is the battery is standalone rechargeable. So when you're out there having to deal with everything going on, and you drain the battery dry, you can swap it out. Let me show you. It has a little USB port on here. That's how you can charge the battery independently of the flashlight. In fact, for this flashlight, that's how you charge the battery. I really like this. When you drain your flashlight dry, the last thing you want to do is stop and say, hey, give me a minute, I gotta charge the flashlight. It'll just take an hour. Yeah, that kind of stinks. Carry other batteries that also are USB rechargeable. This is great. Now, this is a micro USB, so pretty much tons of those everywhere. I mean, I've got a bazillion of those kind of cables. And you just put it in, swap it out, and good to go. The thing that these things do still suffer from is longevity. They will slowly self-discharge. So if you had this thing in an emergency bag or whatever, you get it out, darn thing could be dead. Which leads me to a different option. One that I think is also really good. Here is another option we have for powering our flashlights. In-loop batteries. Here's what the white ones look like. Now these things are nickel metal hydride batteries. Chargers are common, I mean very common. I've got, 3 or 4 nickel metal hydride battery rechargers. Now what's really neat about these ones is they hold their charge for a long time. In fact, as they say on the back of the package, they'll hold the charge for 10 years, and 70% of the battery life remains. You can find a lot of nice LED flashlights that produce, 400, 500 lumens that take AA batteries. Now they don't have the, longevity time of they can run for hours and hours like their internal lithium cells, like some of them, but they will do the job really well. What's great about this is you can put these in your pack, zip it up, and it can sit there for 10 years and you still have 70% of your battery life. And it's not a dead end. You can still recharge it. Now, you doing stuff and you need a charger. Yeah. Here's one of the things I keep with me all the time. Yerps. Falls. It's open. So a solar panel. Yep. And takes AA's on the back, charge them up. I have little adapters, I'll put AAA's in here as well. Works great. I've used this on so many trips, camping, everything else. Just lovely. I bought this thing, oh man, a long time ago. I think we're going on 10 years. It's a Power Film brand. Now this is before they got ridiculously overpriced. I know. There's a lot of other options out there for battery chargers powered by solar panels. I really like it. Now I'll put some of the flashlight options I keep as well for AA's. I put in everything in the emergency supplies and in the rooms, so there's at least a bad flashlight that is charged enough to give you light for a while. But 10 years, seriously, 10 years. The other thing I love about AA, AAA powered electronics, flashlights like that, these things are common. I mean, so common. Tons of people are going to have AA and AAA batteries. Tons of people are going to have rechargeable AA and AAA batteries. Tons of people are going to have chargers for these things. Finding power for a lot of the devices that use these is not going to be murder. But your lithium cells, I mean, there are so many types. 18650, 2650, or 26850 or whatever. And then like in the 18650s, there's ones that are longer and shorter depending on if they have a protected or unprotected. And then there's button tops and flat tops, and it's a mess. I mean, a giant, crazy mess trying to figure this thing out. Drives me nuts. So I go the older route. I say, you know what? For flashlights like that, get ones that if you're going to do lithium, they don't need to be recharged in the flashlight, that you can charge the lithium batteries independently, and that it's a common way to recharge them, like a USB plug. Everyone's going to have a cell phone charger out there. So if you're, evacuating to a fire or something like that, you can find a way to recharge that lithium flashlight if you have one. Or the other option, like I said, AA's. Seriously. Tons of AA's. I mean, any supermarket is going to have a battery display. You can get more batteries. Not a problem. Won't be any big issue, which is great. That's a lot of the problems, though, is a lot of people want these, super high 20 million lumen flashlights they can brag about and say, yeah, it's $800. Isn't this awesome? Although it's proprietary, it takes special plugs, and you need a generator just to charge the thing. Not any darn help. I just want a flashlight to give me light when I need it and to be able to take care of emergencies. Or one that I can stuff in a pack for 10 years. That is a really big option. It's more practical as well. Now let me give you another type of flashlight I think is really important. Yep, it's like the standard old mag light. These things are actually really handy because they can also be used as, physical deterrence sometimes. I also like the heft to them at times because you can't lose this thing as easily, to put it mildly. Bigger flashlight and stuff at times is really handy, especially because you can not lose it. Can't tell you the number of times I've dropped one of the little ones and I'm like, oh great, where did this thing roll to? It's black, it's night, I don't see it. Things like that happen. I do appreciate a bigger flashlight, plus the physical deterrence is a nice plus. This one is an LED lenser, and it does, I think, 400 or 500 lumens or something. It was a nice gift. They're expensive, that's why it was a nice gift. And I appreciate it. Guess what it takes? D's. Yep, big old D cells. And I use nickel metal hydrides in this as well. Now, Eneloop does not have a full-size D 10,000 mAh battery. Now this company Tenergy does, and they have one called Centura? Yeah, but they're a low self-discharge battery design like the Eneloop batteries, which is great. I have not tested these to 10 years to see what they're like. However, I have let them sit around for 2 to 3 years and not had a darn problem, which is great. Now you've got to hear Reed's takes on flashlights and why I went the practical route. Common battery types, common battery sizes, and batteries that can store for 10 years. See what I was doing here? I wasn't trying to get, the most amazing flashlight to brag about with all my friends. I wanted something I could depend on. And something that had really good energy options to swap out when I needed new batteries. That's what I was aiming for. When you're thinking about flashlights, think about it. Carefully consider, if I need to get replacement energy for this or chargers like that, how can I do it? If I drain the battery cell completely dry, what do I do? It's a good question. So a lot of the hype you see in all the magazines, everything else they're showing off, don't buy into it. It's not any good for you, not any good for you at all in an emergency. Stick to something practical. It's the best advice I can give on this. Hope everyone liked this. Do leave comments. I do appreciate them, especially constructive criticism. I really can help benefit from that. Tell me if you like this format. Tell me if the audio is any good, because I'm having to talk a lot lower so I don't go and breathe all the time and make all these crazy pauses. There's going to be some pauses. You're going to have to put up with that due to my learning disability on that side. But keeping the voice down lets me talk at least longer so I don't have to go, in and out and stuff like that. I also want to minimize the jump cuts. They can be a little annoying. Some people, they spend a lot of time making it seem real seamless, as I've looked on a lot of those YouTube videos. You watch it, you carefully look, and you're like, oh, they're jump cutting here. They're just, must be reading off of a screen or something. I don't know exactly what they're doing, but they're pretty sneaky about it. Just never really paid attention anymore. Now that I'm making the videos, yeah, I'm paying a lot more attention. Anyways, hope everyone learned something. Do let me know what you think. I do really appreciate it. And I hope that some of this advice helps you in your flashlight planning. Take care, everyone. This is Reed, out for now. Now, I'm working to see if there's what I can do about this. Obviously, I'm not going to resort to Lance Armstrong,